Thank you, kind sir.
Yeah, I bet this is probably you, huh? Does your life suck? Are you constantly chased down the road by small children who tackle you over and kick you while you're on the ground as they steal your pocket change? I'm sick of it, stop stealing my garments! Well boy, do I have the solution for you! I'm Master Blister, I hate crime, and this is my training course. If you sign up for the low price of $69.69 every single week, we will send you a new videotape in the mail teaching you how to train to become a true crime fighter. Cause I'm sick of the crime, I'm sick of it! The police aren't gonna do nothing, the firefighters aren't gonna do nothing, and I know your lazy ass sure ain't gonna do nothing unless I help ya. So call the number listed below if you want to change today! Warning, this product contains dangerously high levels of green ooze. It is known to cause short-term memory loss and early onset dementia. Please do not call the number if you have any severe medical condition whatsoever or if you are between the ages of 0 and 85 years old due to the risk. This has been Master Blister and, yeah, you're welcome. I liked a lot of stuff as a kid. Superheroes, monsters, aliens, the B-movie for some reason.
I think something stinks in here!
I love the smell of flowers!
Yeah? How do you like the smell of flames?
I have AIDS.
But one thing that always managed to slip my mind for some reason was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Don't get me wrong, I always kind of found them neat. I played a couple of their games, I was vaguely interested in the 2012 show and its banger theme song.
Here we go, it's a lean green ninja team. On the scene, cool teens doing ninja things. So extreme, I'm the sewer like recipe. Get right with the shell shock pizza king.
But something about them just never fully clicked for me like Batman did for some reason. I think I was just pickier about what nerdy shit I liked as a kid. What's this? Turtles who are ninjas? Yeah, okay. I lost interest in Franklin the Turtle years ago, buddy. Where are my men in tights? And it wasn't until about a year ago when I was randomly invited to see the new movie and I was like, yeah, sure, that's the one Seth Rogen wrote, right? And you know what? That movie was a goddamn blast. So since the sequel's already confirmed and on its way, and they just announced a live-action Last Ronin movie that's gonna be R-rated as I'm fucking writing this. So not to say I had anything to do with that or anything, but you're welcome. So I figured now is as great a time as ever to finally get into the TMNT franchise and give you my honest opinions as someone who just doesn't know shit. So if you don't agree with me at any points, please don't get too mad at me. Just remember, I'm not a professional by any regard. But without any further ado, let's just watch some goddamn TMNT, man.
Major League Butt Kicking is back in town! Oh yeah!
This movie is fucking bananas and I love it. I watched this for the first time around the same time I watched the original animated series and I gotta say, I love how well they tie into each other. It kind of feels like a spiritual successor in a way. They followed the original comics decently close, but their main inspiration was clearly the lighthearted tone of the TV show. And I'm not complaining because I think the movie's actually kind of funny. It's actually fucking hilarious at points. It's goofy as all hell and doesn't take itself too seriously, and honestly that just adds to it in a way. It's dated, sure, but the fun tone, semi-interesting story, and great characters make it feel all kind of timeless. This movie's directed by Steve Barron, hit director behind films like that uncanny Pinocchio movie from the 90s. And fucking Conehead. Sure, the dude's not a visionary or anything, but whatever the vision was here, he definitely saw it. And him and this talented crew made the best goofy ass movie they could. Let's talk about these crazy ass costumes real fast, because while they're kind of dated and a little creepy, they're still extremely impressive, especially for the time. They were created by Jim Henson's Creature Shop, which also made the fucking Muppets, and recently, Freddy Fazbear's from Five Nights at Frodo's. This is actually one of the last projects Jim worked on personally before dying. So now it's kind of a pretty big part of his legacy, and I think that's kind of cool because these suits are scarily well made. The actors do a phenomenal job at not only splashing around in these probably really fucking hot and uncomfortable costumes, but of getting into character too, because at certain points you'll be staring at these giant rubber turtles and you won't even remember that they're costumes. They'll just feel like real turtles. And could you imagine if all turtles are like this just to begin with? Humans would not be the dominant species, I'll tell you that much. Look at this thing, getting hit by this dude probably feels like this. Judith Hogg also does a pretty good job as April. She definitely captures the charisma and the charm of the TV show character, even if she doesn't show all that much character development over the course of the film. Hell, the turtles don't even really grow that much individually either, besides learning to stop hiding away by the end and accept who they are. From the very beginning, they're presented as loud and cocky and kinda arrogant, but more than anything, they're kind, laid back, and compassionate. They're just genuinely chill dudes who want to help out and prove to everyone that they're not a bunch of angry monsters. Or the Mutant guy's kids or something like that. Splinter's also here and he looks scary as hell. I know I said the puppets and costumes were really good, and they are, but I just can't get over how he moves. Ugh. Get away from me. At least his connections to the boys is still easy to feel regardless of... Shredder, whilst kind of generic in this movie, is still handled pretty well. He's threatening and intimidating. He really gives off the vibe that he doesn't care about literally anything apart from himself and dominating the world, which works just fine for me. Makes him an instantly hateable dude and you just root against him the entire time. And the final fight against him is honestly hilarious but still really entertaining. He just beats the shit out of the turtles for a few minutes straight until Splinter shows up and fucking does this to him. And then they drop his ass into a dumpster and turn that shit on and just crush him inside of it. Good God. Oh, also Casey's here. I'm just kidding. Casey's actually pretty fun despite being kind of generic, I guess. He's a likable goof and he's a good fighter. That's all you really need to know. I just love how goofy this movie gets sometimes, like when Raphael sort of just puts on a trench coat and fedora with no fucking pants and it's like, yeah, this is a good disguise to wear out in public. Stuff like that just makes me smile because it's such a simple thing that adds so much to the character and the likability of the turtles. I also like how short this movie is. It doesn't overstay its welcome but manages to give its plot enough time to be interesting and its characters enough time to shine. It's a great example of a simplistic movie done right. The creators knew exactly what they wanted to do and they made a fucking great TMNT movie out of it. It's honestly really impressive that this even got made considering it got rejected by like 80 million studios. That's obviously an exaggeration. It was more like 70 million. But eventually they pitched it to this smaller studio who just put like a shit ton of money into this project, and regardless of its age and dated effects, it's still a pretty solid movie because of that. And it's pretty much responsible for everything else to come. A tier.
Aw yeah, boy, it's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. What a goddamn classic. Hello there everyone, my name is Matthias, but you may know me better as Mega Animanic. I run my own little YouTube channel where I talk mainly about video games, but I was invited onto this video to go over a Ninja Turtles movie. I'm not the biggest TMNT fan in the world, but I've got a weak spot for superhero media in general, so these guys have always been a hit with me. It's been a while since I watched any of these, so I thought it'd be a good time to dive back into the classics and tickle the nostalgia a little bit. I'm gonna talk about the one that I know probably the most about, and that's Secret of the Ooze. The 1990 film was an instant classic, getting mixed reviews from critics but absolutely destroying the box office. Work began on a sequel fairly soon after the first one released on home video, being directed this time by Michael Pressman of Bad News Bears and Dr. Detroit fame. Jim Henson's Creature Shop returned to create the animatronic suits for this movie, giving each of the turtles a fresh look and introducing original characters exclusively for this film. The production itself was dedicated to Jim Henson after his passing, which happened not even a year before it released in theaters. Secret of the Ooze received moderate reviews from critics upon debut, receiving credit for better lighting and cinematic shots, but a majority citing the drastic tone shift compared to the first one and out-of-character behavior from some of the cast. Despite this, the production smashed the box office yet again, earning over $78 million and becoming the 13th highest grossing film in 1991. Secret of the the Ooze directly follows up the events of the first movie, however only a small portion of the same cast came back for their roles in this film. Paige Turco replaces Judith Hogue as April O'Neil, who's become a full-on news anchor for Channel 3 and even getting that office promised to her at the end of the first film. Her boss was completely replaced though by the director of the movie, no less. Tough break for Chuck there. Francois Chau replaced James Saito as Shredder, and honestly, because this guy wears so much damn armor and that mask covered half his face for the whole movie, I didn't really notice while I rewatched this thing. Elias Koteas' Casey Jones is completely missing, despite having bonded with a few of the turtles and starting a romantic relationship with April. They replaced his character entirely with this guy, Ernie Reyes Jr. Reyes plays a pizza delivery boy named Kino, who gets wrapped up in the turtles' nonsense after delivering pies one too many times and gets suspicious as to why such a babe would need to consume that much pizza on the regular. He's harmless enough, giving him plenty of screen time to kick some butt, and also letting him form relationships with the turtles that Casey did in the first movie. Speaking of the turtles, they're back and shellier than ever. If you hated that line, you probably wouldn't be a fan of this movie. Along with the not-so-subtle changes to their mascot animatronic suits, each of the turtles' personalities were tweaked to appease the angry moms and playground supervisors everywhere. Raphael probably suffers the most from this. He got away with saying the word damn about 29 times in the first 30 minutes of the first movie, but he's not allowed to say anything remotely close to a curse in this one. Where he was bitterly angry and rude before, the writers were forced to scale back his attitude to getting pissed at not being able to change the channel on the TV and getting fed up with Kino's nonsense and threatening to kick his butt. He still gets to break off from the rest of the turtles to do solo shenanigans and take charge, but combined with his new voice actor, he really just feels like a shadow of his former self. Nothing on Laurie Faso either, who brought a very New Yorker accent to make his line delivery that much more enjoyable. It's just the personality they adopted for his character this time around didn't really land for me, though I do find it enjoyable that he gets in on the brotherly bonding sometimes, finding different ways to say the word cool without actually saying it. Splinter, Leonardo, and Michelangelo are the only ones to retain their original voice actors from the first film, providing some much needed glue to this table flip of a sequel. Splinter still retains his calm and inquisitive nature, so when he speaks up and becomes angered, it's much more attention grabbing. I will say though, I don't remember him speaking to everyone around him with so many proverbs and metaphors. Everything he says is wistful, almost precognizant, with a tone that makes you wonder if he's really that wise or if he just has a copy of the writer's script in his pocket. Leonardo's leadership role is kinda tooled back a little bit more in this one, which kinda sucks. The first movie involved a captured mentor plot, so Leo was forced to step up and keep his brothers in line. Now, with Splinter giving them directions and missions, he's more there just to babysit Raph and Mikey. Speaking of which, Mikey's nonsense in this movie is just more magical. I laugh nearly every time the dude gets a joke in, from getting sucker punched right in the face after criticizing Donatello's joke, to quoting Casablanca to April in the Rain, to dropping his pizza in the city-saving anti-mutagen for their new enemies. Robbie Rist's light-hearted delivery definitely shines here. The biggest turnaround for a character though has to be Adam Carl's performance for Donatello. Holy shit. Before, Donatello was given the stereotypical nasally, argumentative nerd voice that put him right into a box. He's seen teasing his brothers from time to time, and is given the mechanical work to do. But in Secret of the Ooze, he's put front and center right away, and he never really gets the back seat. He's usually paired up with Mikey for one-liners and gags, and is given more fight scenes since his weapon doesn't have a bladed edge. Definitely an improvement over what we had before. Okay, So, Secret of the Ooze is a direct follow-up to the first movie, taking place only a few days, maybe a week after Shredder took a swan dive into the back of a garbage disposal truck. And before we go any further than that, can I just ask, how? My guy fell from a 10-story building directly into a pile of junk containing God knows what, and at full capacity, Casey just throws the switch and the dude gets turned into human-flavored baby food. How did this guy survive the entirety of that, and all he has to show for it is a facial scar? Anyway, the Shredder is pissed, and the Turtles are oblivious. A chemical company is doing some cleanup after a potential spill of toxic waste, and after April does a piece on it, the Turtles and the Foot are interested in the ooze. They fight, and the Foot not only take the last canister of ooze, but the head scientist as well to help them use it. Raphael gets himself captured while looking for the new Foot HQ with Kino, and the others find an abandoned subway station to use as their new home. Donnie, Leo, and Mikey go in to rescue Raph and the Professor, and are greeted by the Shredder's newest playthings, Toka and Razor, mutated forms of a snapping turtle and a wolf. After getting their asses handed to them, the Professor helps devise an anti-mutagen to help reverse the mutation. The Turtles bust into a nightclub at the docks where the real Vanilla Ice is on stage performing. Toka, Razor, the Foot, and the Turtles duke it out in the nightclub, and after subduing the new mutants, Shredder takes a woman hostage with a syringe of ooze. When Kino comes in to fuck things up, Shredder uses the last of the mutagen on himself in a last-ditch effort to destroy the Turtles. It doesn't work, of course, with him being crushed under the weight of the entire dock and its contents, and the Turtles floating back to the surface after having taken refuge in their shells for protection. In many ways, the second live-action Ninja Turtles movie is a departure from the first. It's got a ton more comedy in it. Characters say words like kill and fight less frequently. Even serious moments end with a one-liner, like Splinter's speech about fitting in with society ending with a pizza gag. Or after Shredder almost mutates this lady, Kino says he's learned his wisdom from a rat. The lighting and filter effects are much more clean and bright. New York isn't portrayed to be this grungy little dark city anymore. Instead, it's a brightly lit and clean metropolis. Neither of these are correct, by the way. There's some things right about each one. I'm just astonished as to what aspects each movie chose to highlight. And that might just be the crux of this whole debate. Critics at the time gave this movie a lot of shit for being a happy-go-lucky chuckle fest, but I think that just might be a little too hard for what this movie was trying to accomplish. Yes, the TMNT source material is a very noir and dark atmospheric romp through superhero satire, but they fail to capture the other side of that coin. The Turtles lore contains a lot of super science fiction elements, with humor revolved around how insane that kind of stuff is. This trilogy of movies just doesn't have that kind of content in it. Everything about the Krang, space exploration, and interdimensional travel are completely absent from these movies. So instead, with its new child-friendly mandate, they had to poke fun at trends and occurrences in real life in their humor. For the most part, I think it lands pretty well, and made it a memorable movie for child me. So where does this movie stand in my personal ranking? Well, that's a toughie, because I want to immediately slap it in the A tier for its fun dialogue, expressive animatronics and personality, great choreography, and easy to follow plot. But I have to be realistic and dust off those rose-colored glasses, cause this movie has a lot you have to ignore as well to make it enjoyable. None of this feels like a proper adaptation of the source material, save for the origins of the ooze and addition of new mutants. Toka and Razor were made exclusively for this movie. They aren't in any of the comics or the animated series that was on TV TV at the time. This movie highlights the TGRI Science Company, but in the source material the company is known as the TCRI, with an emphasis on space research. The turtles themselves are supposed to practice ninjutsu, meaning lots of acrobatic moves and stealth missions. And yeah, the turtles are agile in the fight sequences, and Raph specifically gets highlighted when he and Kino infiltrate the Foot Clan HQ, but that's about it. It's a difficult decision, but all things considered, and solely because Vanilla Ice himself was hired on to not only create and perform an original song for the final battle in the Dock Warehouse nightclub, which continues to be a bop to this day, I'm gonna go ahead and put this national treasure in the B tier where it belongs. This movie is a shining example of a campy ass 90s action comedy with memorable lines and great set design. That's gonna do it for me, folks. I hope y'all had as much fun as me revisiting this classic work of art. I'll turn things back over to Brandog now. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. And remember, folks,
It wasn't slime. It was ooze.
Somehow, years of hearing about how insane and weird this movie is could not have at all prepared me for it. TMNT 3 is basically infamous at this point for not only killing the franchise, but for being an insane, crazy ass, bore, sneeze fest, weird, I don't even know what else other words I could say. It's just fucking bad. This movie's kind of uncomfortable at times, but it's also kind of boring. It has its moments where it's funny, but it's not always intentional. And when it's not being funny, it's just an all-around disappointing conclusion for the trilogy. Since I don't even know where to start with this shit, let's just take it back to the beginning. The film opens with this surprisingly cool shot of a bunch of samurai chasing this guy down the beach, even though the color correction is as clear as fucking day. And this carries on into a tense fight in the woods, and at this point you start to forget that you're even watching a TMNT movie. Then you get hit with the dance scene. This shit goes on for several minutes straight. Then the movie's samurai subplot comes into play, and I'm sorry, but it's just painfully uninteresting to me. Maybe that's because I've never been that much of a samurai guy myself, but I feel like most people came to see the turtles, not these random assholes yelling at each other. So April gets sucked into the fucking streetlight and ends up in ancient Japan, while the samurai wakes up in the current day, all confused and speaking perfect English. Also, they switch clothes for some reason. And Casey's here again. So the turtles use the lamp themselves and switch places with a bunch of very confused samurai and go on a quest to save April. And while they're there, all they do is hurt themselves on literally everything and scare the fuck out of the locals. Leo also gives a human CPR at some point. Should I blur this? Is this bestiality? And while this is happening, there's a completely unnecessary side plot about Casey teaching a bunch of samurai how to play hockey, and honestly, I kind of preferred this as it felt like a shitty 2000s Adam Sandler comedy or something. The Long Legacy. But to be honest, guys, apart from the odd moments when I was laughing out loud at the pure insanity on my screen, this movie was just kind of boring and kind of shitty. Due to the second one kind of underperforming, this movie's budget was in the fucking dirt. I honestly think it's kind of impressive that they were able to make these semi-realistic and believable sets that still hold up pretty well today, despite the fact that this movie's budget was a shoestring. But since this movie is so cheap, it's no surprise that the overall action and set pieces took a major nosedive. The fight scenes were never great before, but this shit straight up feels like I'm watching someone LARP in the backyard. It's choppy and headache-inducing. And sometimes it gets so goofy to the point where it feels like I'm watching the Looney Tunes. You're telling me these are ninjas? But to be fair, the stuntmen were giving these fucking falls everything they had. I'm sure this shit had to hurt. It was so hard, I wouldn't be surprised if Steve-O was actually under the mask the whole time. And I could just be tripping, and maybe my pure disdain towards the movie has just made me biased. But I don't know, I feel like the turtle suits look worse? I don't know. They're honestly creepier than before, and I thought I'd be used to them by now. And the final act of this movie is just so bizarre, dude. But before we could talk about that, we gotta talk about this movie's super interesting and compelling antagonist, except he's not that at all, he's just some guy. This guy's a bitch and such a massive downgrade from someone like Shredder. He's just an evil arms dealer who only speaks to say evil and vaguely threatening things. And for some reason he thinks the turtles are like demons sent to kill him. I mean, can you really fucking blame him for that? But yeah, the finale of this movie is extremely goofy and kind of goes on for too long. But the set design is hella fun, so I'll allow it, I guess. And all this movie is movie's just not very good. It's hilarious and definitely entertaining at times, but overall, this is a major letdown compared to the original 2. I mean, for God's sake, 2 wasn't even that great, but what the fuck is this? So yeah, I think I'm gonna have to give this movie the well-earned and exclusive tier of sewer sludge. But yeah, that marks the end of the original TMNT live-action trilogy, and it's a shame it ended on this way and there was never more. Oh, okay. In 2007, the Turtles got their first ever theatrically released animated feature called TMNT. It's just called TMNT, I guess. This is like a very loose sequel to the original trilogy. It's vaguely connected, but kinda not at the same time. It's a little confusing. But to be honest, I think this might be my favorite of the first 4 movies we got. Don't know if that's a popular opinion or not, but it's definitely mine. First of all, the animation is smooth as shit. Maybe that's a bad way to describe it. I mean, it's really good, especially when you consider this was made 16 years ago and only for $32 million, and if that doesn't sound like much, the new movie had a $7 million budget. So this movie also looks good on less than half of that, and I think it's pretty fucking cool. It's aged so well apart from the humans anyway, good god. And by that regard, the action is really good and probably one of the main appeals of this movie. This is easily the best action we've seen thus far, but then again, there's not that much competition. It's like every other scene is a unique and exciting action sequence filled with suspense and good choreography. It really helps that a lot of these fights feel intense and engaging, when they used to feel kinda hollow. And the action is easily the main appeal here, as it's what's going to keep you engaged if anything, because the story on the other hand is kinda eh. There's a new threat in New York City who's a bunch of fucking 3,000-year-old stone warriors, basically. And while they definitely have their moments, they're nothing compared to a classic Shredder. Or that brain guy, what's his name again? Krang? I don't know, guys, I'm not a professional, remember? But don't get me wrong, I like aspects of the plot, like the connection between the turtles and how they all get a pretty decent amount of character development by the end of the movie. They haven't been crime fighting for a long time, so Leo goes off to some random country to train, I guess. Raphael's been secretly going out at night and fighting criminals, and the other two have just been kind of sulking at home, all sad. They're a lot less jokey with each other and often at each other's throats, as they have wildly different ideas for what they should do with themselves. Donnie thinks they should leave the life in the past and focus on bettering themselves individually, while Mikey just wants things to go back to how they were before. Him and his brothers eating pizza and having a good time. The sense of separation they feel also makes the movie feel a lot heavier than it traditionally would, and it causes a lot of the grist in the group to feel exciting to watch. I mean, the main bread and butter here is the relationship between Leo and Raph. They've always kind of went back and forth in the past, struggling to see eye to eye on certain things, but this takes it to a whole new level. They're both so blinded by their self-righteous journeys to becoming the ultimate warrior that they can't see that they're basically one and the same. They both try to leave the family behind in pursuit of crime fighting. They both think they're the only ones who can make a difference in this conflict, which results in them fighting. And my god, it's such a well done scene. It's intense and heartbreaking watching these two brothers go from this.
Hey. What? Raph! You're awake. How do you feel?
To this. This fight also looks amazing, and the choreography and color design makes it stand out and pop. It's easily my favorite scene of the movie.
Don't do this, Raph. I'm done taking orders.
Jesus, man. The turtles are fucking getting to me. This is honestly one of those movies that I don't have a crazy amount to say about. I just really like it. And if you like the Turtles and somehow haven't seen this movie, then do yourself a favor. It's a blast, and it really sucks that it never got a sequel. But oh well, we have a shit ton of other movies to watch regardless. A tier. Now unfortunately, the 2000 animated series is something I also missed as a kid, but from what I've been able to collect, it's basically the equivalent of that 90s Spider-Man show, but for the Turtles. What I mean by that is that it's easily one of their longest series, and just about everything that could happen to the characters does. They beat all their enemies, they time travel, they do this. The show honestly sounds like a lot of fun and something I would have definitely enjoyed as a kid, but unfortunately I think I missed that bandwagon. But hey, at least I can still watch this movie and have no clue what the fuck is happening. But hey, apparently the movie's not even canon, so I guess I can just watch it and enjoy it on its own. Obviously, as someone who's just now getting into the Turtles, I was pretty confused at points during this movie, but it was just so full of life and so damn fun. I didn't really care. It didn't affect my viewing experience at all. I had a good time. I honestly think this movie's entertaining and funny enough to stand on its own, even if the added context of the show would have definitely helped. But this movie, if you don't know, is basically TMNT's version of Spider-Verse, and it's actually super sick. Godzilla Mendoza made a whole video about it recently if you want a way more in-depth review to watch. I'm just gonna give you a quick summary on why I think this movie is fucking awesome. First thing I'll say is I really like the art style. It's simple but very smooth and definitely holds up despite its almost 20-year-old age now, Jesus. I think the animation medium is the perfect place for the turtles to reside. They can be done in live action, and it was, again, kinda after this. I'll talk about that shit more later. But animation just complements them so much better and ages way gracefully than this. Okay, I promise I'm done showing that fucking picture now. And by that metric, all the action and individual set pieces are a lot of fun too. I think it's super impressive when the artists do cool shit like this when it's not even necessary. Like, they could have just introduced the turtles normally, but instead they did this. The plot itself is okay, it's just an excuse to get all the turtles in one place at one time, and I can't even complain about that, because it's a lot of fun. Seeing the 80s cartoon characters return was so cool, even if it clearly wasn't the same voice actors. But it was also cool considering they were like some of the only turtles I was exposed to before this video. In fact, real quick, let me take a break to tell you about all those things real quick. I watched the 80s cartoon like a year ago, Friends, and it was a fucking blast. I played a TMNT game on my PS2 called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Smash Up, which was awesome, by the way. I might make a whole video about that shit at some point. I was also briefly into that 2012 series as a kid before I just kind of stopped watching for whatever reason. And then I watched that new movie a year ago, and now I'm here, watching a bunch of turtles get chained up for some scary porn shit. In all seriousness, seeing these guys return was great, and I think they did a pretty damn good job of capturing the energy of these big-eyed dudes. I really like how this movie doesn't even hesitate in introducing them. The film literally opens with the current turtles saving them, and the rest is non-stop fun amongst the 8 of them. It's a really nice change of pace considering so many multiverse stories these days just wait until the very end to reveal the guy we all came to see. And they also didn't do the trope where the different versions can't get along at first or something. Nah, they're just immediately friends. It's awesome. This movie also never slows down, like, ever. They had the occasional few minute long talk scenes in between the insane shit, but usually those don't last very long, but half of them are interrupted by explosions anyway, so it's fine. It kind of feels like they just spent a whole meeting pitching different Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles set pieces and wrote a whole movie around that idea. But hey, the movie's definitely not boring to watch, which is definitely one of their major goals here. It's literally non-stop bad guy punching. They also have this dude who becomes like a half man, half turtle hybrid, and it's kind of fucking scary, but really fucking cool. And all this movie's just so much fun, and I'm surprised I never really heard of it before doing this video. Even if I wasn't too plugged into the world of the turtles, I assumed I would at least know about something this crazy, but I guess not. I'm definitely glad I watched it though, and I could say it holds up pretty well, even if you don't know that much about the turtles like me. In fact, I kind of want to watch the show now, but I can't just yet, because there's still a shit ton of movies to go though. Yay! A tier.
3 weeks later.
Come on. Come on. Come on. Daddy's got $200 right on this game. Come on. Whew. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Daddy's gonna make it. Why? Is it already time for my 4 o'clock? Dude, I fucking hate this job. Fuck it, man. Let's just get it over with. Hello? Yeah, what do you need, dude? What's up? Oh, good. Dr. Barnum, yeah, I was hoping you'd answer. Well, I mean, yeah, that's kind of my job, man. Listen, dude, I don't think I'm gonna be needing these sessions anymore, honestly. Are you sure? Well, why not? I just recently signed up for Master Splinter's training program, and I don't think I'll ever be sad ever again. I don't think anything bad could ever happen to me again after something like that. Hold on, I gotta call you right back. Hello? Hello? Fucking hung up on me. Good luck with that, I guess. There goes my one client. Back to what I'm really here for, man. Yeah, woo, yeah, keep going, yeah. Oh shit, no!